I'm standing at my parents' dining table, rain hammering against the windows. My father's face is twisted with rage, his fist slamming down so hard the wine glasses jump. "You're no longer part of this family," he says, each word sharp as broken glass. My mother looks away. My older brother David stares at his plate. My sister Jessica scrolls through her phone like I'm already invisible. Nobody speaks up for me. Nobody even tries. "Dad, please," I start, my voice shaking. "Just listen." "I said get out," he roars. "You've disgraced the Hensley name. After everything we did for you, everything we gave you, this is how you repay us." Uncle Richard leans back in his chair, arms crossed, smirking. "He started this. He backed me into a corner and I refused to compromise. Now I'm paying the price." My father stands, pointing toward the door. "Pack your things. You're done here." I look at my mom one last time, silently begging her to say something. Her eyes are wet, but her mouth stays shut. Outside, my belongings hit the wet driveway in garbage bags. The rain soaks through everything. My father's final words echo in my head. "You'll come crawling back one day." Just 3 weeks ago, everything was different. I was Claire Hensley, the golden daughter, valedictorian at Ohio State. First in our family to graduate college with honors. Everyone assumed I'd join Hensley and Company, my family's construction company that my grandfather built from nothing. At my graduation party, Uncle Richard raised his glass. "To Claire, the future of Hensley and Company." Everyone cheered. My father beamed with pride. I smiled, but my stomach twisted with doubt. I had different dreams. All through college, I volunteered with Habitat for Humanity. I saw families living in falling-apart trailers, kids sleeping in cars, single mothers working 3 jobs and still unable to afford decent housing. Broke my heart. I wanted to build sustainable homes for low-income families. Affordable housing that didn't cut corners. Places where people could actually thrive, not just survive. When I told my family at dinner one night, the room went silent. "That's nice for a hobby," my father said carefully. "But your real career is waiting at the company." "I'm serious, Dad. This is what I want to do." Uncle Richard laughed. "Sweetheart, charity work doesn't pay bills. Come work for us. We'll teach you the real business." 2 days later, Uncle Richard called me into his office at Hensley and Company. The building smelled like coffee and fresh paint. Photos of completed projects lined the walls. Shopping centers, apartment complexes, government contracts. He leaned back in his leather chair, fingers steepled. "Claire, I'm going to be straight with you. Your father and I discussed it. We're offering you a position. Project manager. $80,000 a year to start. Full benefits. Corner office." My heart raced. That was serious money. What would I be doing? Managing our low-income housing contracts. See, you'd still be helping people, just under our brand. Sounded perfect. Too perfect. "Can I see the project files?" Yes. Something flickered in his eyes. "Of course. After you sign on." That night I couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong. So I did what any suspicious person would do. I dug through public records online. What I found made my blood run cold. Hensley and Company's low-income projects had dozens of violations. Faulty wiring. Cheap materials that failed inspections. Bribe building inspectors. Families had gotten sick from mold. One building had a partial collapse. I confronted Uncle Richard the next morning. He didn't even deny it. He just shrugged. "That's how the business works, sweetheart. Nobody says no to a Hensley." When I refused to join the company, everything changed. My family called me ungrateful, naive, stupid. Uncle Richard's friendly tone vanished, replaced with ice-cold threats. "You're making a big mistake," he said quietly. A week later, the police showed up at my apartment. Someone had leaked documents to my first employer, a small architecture firm, claiming I'd stolen proprietary blueprints from Hensley and Company. The documents looked real. They had my name on them. But I'd never seen them before in my life. My boss called me into his office, face grim. "Claire, I have to let you go. We can't have this kind of legal liability. Those documents are fake," protested. "I never stole anything. The police have a warrant to search your apartment. Until this clears up, you're suspended without pay." I sat in the parking lot shaking. My phone rang Mom's number. Relief flooded through me. Finally, someone was reaching out. "Mom, thank God. I didn't do this, I swear." "How could you?" Her voice was cold, distant. "Stealing from your own family." "I didn't. Someone set me up." She hung up. That night, the police searched my apartment. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. But the damage was done. The charges were dropped after 2 weeks. My name was cleared legally, but professionally I was destroyed. Nobody in Ohio would hire me. The Hensley name that once opened doors now slammed them shut. I called my parents 12 times. None of them answered. I drove to their house. The gates were locked. I sent emails. Nothing. My savings ran out. I sold my car, my furniture, everything valuable. I moved to a small town 3 hours away, Millbrook, where nobody knew the Hensley name. I got a job at Rita's Diner, working the late shift. Grease-stained aprons, sore feet, customers who didn't tip. I kept my head down, used my middle name, and tried to rebuild. One night, a woman in her 50s sat at the counter. She wore a simple blazer and had kind eyes. She ordered coffee and pie, watching me work. When she paid, she left a business card next to a generous tip. "You're too smart to be hiding here," she said gently. "Don't waste it." The card read, "Maya Brooks, founder, Bright Future Housing Initiative." I stared at it long after she left, something stirring in my chest. Hope maybe. Or maybe just desperation. I called Maya the next morning. She invited me to her office, a cramped space above a hardware store. Files and blueprints covered every surface. A small team of 3 worked at folding tables. "We build affordable housing," Maya explained. "The right way. No shortcuts, no bribes. Just good homes for people who need them." "Why me?" I asked. "You don't even know me." She smiled. "I looked you up after I saw you. Claire Hensley. Valedictorian. Habitat volunteer. Charges dropped, but reputation destroyed. Your family's company is garbage, but you're not. I can tell." I wanted to cry with relief. Someone believed me. I started the next week. The pay was terrible, barely above minimum wage, but I didn't care. I was learning real construction management, the ethical way. We worked with local contractors, used quality materials, followed every regulation. 6 months later, our first completed project, a small development of 12 homes, won a local housing award. The mayor attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony. A reporter snapped my photo. It ran in the Millbrook Gazette with the caption, "Claire Hensley, project manager." My phone buzzed that night. A text from my brother David. "Saw your picture. Really? Building charity houses now. Pathetic." The story spread faster than I expected. A Columbus journalist connected the dots. Claire Hensley, disgraced family member, now working in affordable housing. The irony was too good to ignore. The article's headline read, "Fallen Hensley returns to construction through non-profit work." My family's response came swiftly. Uncle Richard gave a smug interview to a business magazine. "Claire's trying to build houses out of pity now," he said, laughing. "She couldn't handle the real business, so she's playing in the sandbox. Good for her, I guess." Jessica posted on social media. "Some people can't handle real success, so they settle for handouts and call it charity. Embarrassing." I read every cruel comment, every mocking post. My hands shook with anger and shame. Maya found me crying in the office bathroom. "Let them talk," she said firmly. "You're doing real work. They're just protecting their egos. Keep building, Claire. That's the only revenge that matters." She was right. So I threw myself into the work. I designed better layouts, found cost-effective sustainable materials, streamlined our processes. Our projects got faster, better, more efficient. And people noticed. A year after joining Maya's team, I designed something I was truly proud of. An eco-housing prototype. Solar panels, rainwater collection, energy-efficient insulation. All within the budget for low-income families. I presented it at a small housing conference in Cincinnati. To my shock, it won the Innovation Award. Suddenly, investors were calling. The prototype was featured in housing journals. A venture capital firm expressed interest in scaling the model statewide. Maya was ecstatic. "Claire, this could change everything for us. Real funding. Real expansion." I felt pride swelling in my chest. Genuine, earned pride. Not the hollow achievement of writing my family's name. This was mine. Then 2 weeks later, a legal notice arrived. Hensley and Company was suing me for intellectual property theft. They claimed my eco-housing design was based on proprietary company research I'd stolen years ago. I stared at the papers, hands trembling. This is insane. I designed this from scratch. They're lying. Maya's face went pale. "Can we fight this?" "With what money?" I whispered. "We can barely afford office rent." My uncle was doing exactly what he'd threatened. He was crushing me before I could rise. And this time I didn't know if I could survive it. Our lawyer was a recent graduate working pro bono cases. She looked terrified reading Hensley and Company's filing. "They have a big firm," she said quietly. "This could drag out for years. Even if you win, the legal fees could bankrupt Bright Future." I sat in Maya's office, head in my hands. Everything I'd built was crumbling again. My family knew exactly how to destroy me. Not with truth, but with money and power. "I'm sorry," I told Maya. "I should leave. Toxic. They'll keep coming after you as long as I'm here." "Absolutely not," she said fiercely. "We fight." That night I got an unexpected call. A voice I vaguely recognized. "Claire. It's Aaron Phelps. I don't know if you remember me." Aaron. He'd been a young intern at Hensley and Company when I was in college. Quiet guy, always took detailed notes. "I remember," I said cautiously. "I'm a lawyer now. I heard about the lawsuit. I owe you a favor. You helped me through a rough patch back then. Let me look at this case." "No charge." I almost cried. "Aaron, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. Your uncle is a fraud, Claire. And I think I can prove it." Aaron worked fast. He subpoenaed Hensley and Company's financial records, dug through permit applications, interviewed former employees. What he found was explosive. "Your uncle isn't just cutting corners," Aaron told me, spreading documents across the table. "He's laundering money through shell construction companies. Fake contracts, inflated costs, kickbacks to inspectors. This is federal-level fraud." My heart pounded. "Can we use this?" "We can expose him," Aaron said carefully. "But it's nuclear. This won't just end the lawsuit. It'll destroy Hensley and Company." I thought about my father, my mother, my siblings. Despite everything, they were still family. Destroying the company would devastate them. But then I remembered being thrown out in the rain. The false accusations. The years of silence. "We won't destroy them ourselves," I said slowly. "We'll expose the truth. What happens after that is their own fault." Aaron nodded. "I'll need time to build the case properly. Keep this quiet." For the next 3 months, Aaron worked in secret. We gathered evidence. Payroll fraud, safety violations, falsified permits, bribed officials. Everything meticulously documented. And then something happened that changed everything. A warehouse fire broke out at one of Hensley and Company's construction sites. 3 workers died. The news coverage was immediate and brutal. Investigators found faulty wiring, locked emergency exits, expired fire extinguishers. Everything pointed to criminal negligence. I watched the news report, numb with horror. Those were real people. Real families destroyed because my uncle cut corners to save money. Aaron called me that night. The journalist I've been working with is ready to publish. This tragedy gives the story national attention. Are you ready? I closed my eyes, thinking of those 3 workers. Their families deserve justice. Publish it, I said. The exposé ran the next morning in a major newspaper. Hensley and Company, a legacy built on corruption and tragedy. The article detailed everything, the fraud, the bribes, the safety violations. It didn't mention me yet, focusing purely on the company's crimes. But it was enough. The public outcry was immediate. Investors pulled funding. Partners canceled contracts. Government officials launched investigations. Hensley and Company was collapsing in real time. The media frenzy consumed Ohio. Every news channel covered the Hensley scandal. Protesters gathered outside the company headquarters. Families of victims demanded justice. My uncle went into hiding. My father gave a disastrous press conference, deflecting blame, insisting they'd done nothing wrong. It only made things worse. Then the phone call came. A state housing official contacted Maya. Bright Future Housing Initiative has been recommended to complete the government affordable housing contract that Hensley and Company defaulted on. It's a $15 million project. Are you interested? Maya looked at me, eyes wide. This was massive. This was everything we'd worked for. But it was also my family's territory. Their biggest contract. Taking it would be the final blow. I don't know, I admitted. It feels like revenge. Maya shook her head. It's not revenge. It's justice. Those homes need to be built, and we'll do it right. The families waiting for housing don't care about your family drama. They just want safe homes. She was right. This wasn't about hurting my family. It was about finishing what they'd failed to do. Let's do it, I said. The contract was ours within a week. Walking back into Hensley and Company's building felt surreal. The place looked the same. Same marble lobby, same photos on the walls. But everything was different. The receptionist barely looked up. Half the staff had quit. The offices felt hollow, desperate. My father's assistant led me to the conference room. My father sat at the head of the table, looking 10 years older. Uncle Richard wasn't there. Rumor was he'd fled to avoid arrest. Claire, my father said stiffly. He didn't stand. Didn't offer his hand. Mr. Hensley, I replied, keeping my voice professional. I'm here to discuss the transition of the government contract to Bright Future. His jaw tightened. You don't have to do this. You're punishing us. I'm finishing a project you failed to complete. There are families waiting for homes. That's all this is. My mother appeared in the doorway, looking fragile and tired. Claire, please. You're making a mistake coming back here. I met her eyes. The only mistake was yours. Years ago. I laid out the transition plan, professional and thorough. My father signed the paperwork with shaking hands. As I left, I felt lighter. I'd faced them without crumbling. I claimed my space without apology. Over the next 6 months, Hensley and Company unraveled completely. Federal investigators charged my uncle with fraud and manslaughter. He was arrested while trying to board a flight to Mexico. The company filed for bankruptcy. Employees lost their jobs. The Hensley name, once synonymous with power in Ohio construction, became a symbol of corruption. I felt no satisfaction watching it happen. Just sadness for the waste of it all. Meanwhile, Bright Future Housing thrived. The government contract was completed ahead of schedule and under budget. Our eco-housing model attracted national attention. We expanded to 3 more cities. Maya promoted me to Director of Operations. You earned this, she said. None of this happens without you. Then one afternoon my assistant handed me a message. Your father called. He wants to meet. My stomach dropped. I hadn't spoken to him since the contract signing. What did he say? Just that it's important. He said, help us rebuild. You're the only one who can. I stared at the message slip for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it. But another part, the part that still remembered being their daughter, needed closure. I agreed to meet him for coffee. My father looked broken. His suit was rumpled. His eyes were red-rimmed. We sat in a quiet corner of a downtown cafe, the silence between us heavy. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. I said nothing, waiting. "We're losing everything. The house, the business, our reputation. Your mother and I. We don't know what to do. Why are you telling me this?" He looked directly at me for the first time. "Because you were right. About everything. And I was too proud to admit it." The words I'd waited years to hear. But they felt empty now. "I want to help us rebuild," he continued. "Not Hensley and Company, that's done. But maybe something new. You and me. A fresh start." I almost laughed. "You kicked me out. You let Uncle Richard frame me. You watched while they destroyed my reputation and said nothing." "I know." His voice cracked. "I was wrong. I chose loyalty to Richard over my own daughter. I chose money over integrity. I failed you." Tears streamed down his face. For a moment, I saw him not as the powerful man who disowned me, but as a scared, broken person who'd made terrible choices. "I'm sorry, Claire. Please, help us." I took a slow breath, steadying myself. "No." His face crumpled. "Claire." "No," I repeated firmly. "You made your choices. Now you live with them. I'm not bailing you out." I stood to leave but then paused. There was something I needed to know. "Did you know?" Yes. "When I refused to join the company, when Uncle Richard framed me, did you know I was innocent?" He couldn't look at me. That was answer enough. "You knew," I whispered. "You knew I didn't steal anything, and you let it happen anyway." "Richard said it was the only way to control the situation," he said weakly. "The business was everything." I thought you'd understand eventually." The betrayal hit me fresh, sharp as the day he'd thrown me out. "Goodbye, Dad." I walked out of that cafe and didn't look back. 2 weeks later, I learned why he'd really reached out. Hensley and Company had been secretly using my eco-housing designs without permission, claiming them as their own to attract new investors. They'd forged documents suggesting I'd sold them the patent. It was Uncle Richard's playbook all over again. But this time I had Aaron. This time I had proof. And this time I wasn't backing down. My family called a dinner at their house. "To make peace," my mother said over the phone. "Please, Claire. Let's end this fighting." Maya warned me it was a trap. Aaron agreed. But something in my mother's voice sounded genuine, and I wanted to believe redemption was possible. I showed up with Aaron's legal documents hidden in my bag, just in case. The house looked different. Furniture was gone. Paintings removed from walls. They were selling everything. David and Jessica were there, looking uncomfortable. My father sat at the head of the nearly empty dining table. "Thank you for coming," Mom said, setting out a simple meal. "We wanted to talk about moving forward." "Moving forward how?" I asked carefully. My father slid papers across the table. "We want to formalize a partnership. Bring the Hensley name under your company's umbrella. You'd maintain control, but we'd be involved in operations." I scanned the documents. Buried in the legal language was a clause transferring my eco-housing patent to a joint venture, effectively giving them co-ownership. My heart sank. Maya was right. It was a trap. "You want my patent," I said flatly. "We want to work together," Jessica protested. "As a family." I pulled out my own papers, the ones Aaron prepared. "Sign these instead." They were releases, admitting they'd used my designs without permission and relinquishing any claim to my work. My father's face turned red. "You came here to humiliate us. I came here hoping you'd changed. Clearly you haven't." I signed their fake partnership papers with a flourish, a version Aaron had drafted that held no legal weight. "There. We have a deal," I said with a cold smile. I'd give them exactly what they deserved. The next morning, headlines exploded. "Bright Future Founder Exposes Continued Corruption in Hensley Family Empire." I released everything to the press. The forged documents, the attempted patent theft, the dinner setup. Aaron had worked with journalists to verify every file. The story went viral. National news picked it up. Social media erupted. My uncle was arrested again, this time for attempting to flee the country. The charges now included ongoing fraud and witness intimidation. I watched his arrest live on television, officers leading him away in handcuffs. My phone buzzed constantly, reporters, supporters, people from my past reaching out. Maya hugged me in the office. "You did it. You actually did it." But I didn't feel victorious. I felt exhausted and sad. That night, alone in my apartment, I let myself cry. Not for them. For the family I'd wished we could have been. For the little girl who'd believed her parents would always protect her. For the relationships that were now permanently broken. My phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "They're saying terrible things about us." It was Jessica, voice shaking. "Claire, we're sorry. We're really sorry. Too little. Too late." The Hensley family became social pariahs overnight. Former friends stopped calling. Country club memberships were revoked. Business associates distanced themselves publicly. My father released a statement claiming I'd manipulated everything, that I was a vengeful daughter destroying her own family. Nobody believed him. The damage was done. The Hensley name that once commanded respect now triggered disgust. Bright Future Housing, meanwhile, exploded with growth. We secured contracts in 5 states. Major investors backed us. I was invited to speak at national housing conferences. We rebranded as Bright Hearth Homes, a name that felt warmer, more personal. One afternoon, my assistant handed me an envelope. No return address. Inside was a handwritten letter from my father. "Claire, I know you won't forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to know the truth. I always knew you were innocent. I protected Richard because I was weak and scared of losing the business. That fear cost me my daughter. Cost me everything that mattered. I was wrong. About everything. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Your father." I read it 3 times, tears blurring the words. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated. But mostly I just felt sad. He asked at the end, "Can you ever forgive me?" I wrote back a single sentence. "I forgive you. But I won't forget." Bright Hearth Homes became a national brand. My eco-housing model was featured in Architectural Digest. We won the National Housing Innovation Award. Investors lined up to fund expansion. And then something unexpected happened. The Hensley family estate, the sprawling house I grew up in, went up for auction to pay debts. Maya saw the listing and showed it to me. "This might sound crazy, but hear me out. What if we bought it? Why would I want that house?" Asked voice tight. "Not for you to live in. For the foundation. Turn it into Bright Hearth headquarters. A training center for construction workers. Housing resource offices for families in need." I stared at the listing photos. The grand staircase. The dining room where I'd been disowned. The driveway where my belongings had been thrown in the rain. "Not for revenge," Maya added gently. "For closure." She was right. Transforming that house into something meaningful would be the ultimate redemption. We bought it at auction for a fraction of its original value. My family didn't attend the sale. Renovating the Hensley estate took 6 months. We turned the formal dining room into a community meeting space. The library became a resource center. My father's office became mine, not because I wanted his space, but because it had the best light for working. We planted gardens where families could learn sustainable farming. The garage became a tool library where people could borrow equipment for free. The day we officially opened, media from across the state attended. I stood at the entrance, ribbon in hand, surrounded by families who'd benefited from our programs. "This house once stood for exclusivity and pride," I said into the microphone. "Today it stands for community and hope. Welcome to Bright Hearth Foundation." The crowd cheered. Cameras flashed. Maya squeezed my hand. That night, a press release went out. Bright Hearth Foundation opens new headquarters in former Hensley estate, founded by Claire Hensley. My phone exploded with messages. But 3 names caught my attention: Mom, Dad, Jessica. I didn't open them that night. I wasn't ready yet. But I knew they'd seen it. They knew whose name was on the deed now. A month later, my mother called. Her voice was small, defeated. "Claire, we need to talk. In person." "About what?" Long pause. "We have nowhere else to go." They'd lost everything. The house, the business, their savings. My father's legal fees had drained them completely. They were living in a small rental, surviving on what little remained. "Please," she whispered. "We're desperate." Part of me wanted to say no, to let them suffer the way they'd let me suffer. But I wasn't that person. "I'll meet you," I said. We met at a coffee shop. My parents looked older, worn down. Jessica and David sat beside them, equally humbled. "We're sorry," my mother began. "Truly sorry. We destroyed you because we were too proud to admit we were wrong. We know we don't deserve your help, but—" "I'll give you jobs," I interrupted. They looked up, stunned. "Not as partners. Not as executives. As employees. Entry-level positions at the foundation. If you want them." My father's pride flared for a moment, but then deflated. "What would we be doing?" "Whatever needs doing. Administrative work. Community outreach. Maybe eventually, project coordination if you prove yourselves." It wasn't charity. It was an opportunity to rebuild, on my terms. "You'd work under the Bright Hearth name," I continued. "The name you rejected. If you can accept that, you're hired." They started the following Monday. My father filed paperwork. My mother answered phones. David and Jessica helped coordinate volunteer schedules. It was strange seeing them in my world, following my rules. But they worked hard. They showed up on time. They didn't complain. Slowly, carefully, something began to shift. One afternoon, my father approached my office. He knocked hesitantly. "Come in," I said. He stood in the doorway, looking uncomfortable in his cheap polo shirt with the Bright Hearth logo. "I just wanted to say, I'm proud of what you've built here. I was wrong to ever doubt you." The words still didn't erase the pain. But they were a start. "Thank you," I said simply. Over the following months, my family integrated into the foundation. They met the families we helped. They saw the impact of ethical construction. They understood finally what I'd been fighting for. Jessica started leading volunteer training sessions. David developed a budgeting program for new homeowners. My mother organized donation drives. They weren't the Hensleys of Hensley and Company anymore. They were just people trying to do better. And that was enough. A year later, I stood in the former Hensley estate, now bustling with activity. Families attended workshops. Kids played in the garden. Construction trainees learned sustainable building techniques. My father walked past the main office, pausing at the plaque mounted beside the door. Bright Hearth Foundation, founded by Claire Hensley. He looked at it for a long moment, then continued walking. No resentment, no pride, just acceptance. That evening we had our first family dinner in years. Not at a fancy table, but in the foundation's community kitchen, eating simple food with staff and volunteers. "Remember when you told me I'd come crawling back?" asked my father. He winced. "I remember. You were wrong. I never crawled. I built something better." He nodded slowly. "You did. And we're grateful you let us be part of it." Maya joined us, raising her coffee mug. To second chances. We all raised our cups. My mother wiped tears from her eyes. Jessica smiled genuinely for the first time in years. They lived now under the name they'd once rejected. They worked in the building they'd lost. And somehow it felt right. Not revenge. Just justice. The quiet, powerful kind that comes from simply living well. Ghouls. We've won national awards. But the real victory isn't the awards or the money. It's this. My family works here not because they own it, but because they believe in it. My father helps new homeowners understand their mortgages. My mother coordinates with social services. They've become people I can respect, even if I can't forget what they did. A journalist is here today, filming a documentary about Bright Hearth's journey. She asks me the question everyone wants to know. Do you feel vindicated after everything they put you through? I look out at the families, the volunteers, the gardens, the homes. I think about the girl who was thrown out in the rain with nothing but a dream. No, I say honestly. I don't feel vindicated. I feel free. She smiles. Any message for people facing similar situations? I turn to the camera. They disowned me for wanting to build homes with integrity. Now they live in the world I built. That's not revenge. That's just truth. The camera lingers on my face. Peaceful, content, finally at home in my own life. The Hensley name they rejected. It's now the name that helps thousands. And that's the only legacy that matters.